You're listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.
Hi, it's Louisa Tanner Munson, and we've got over to the 7th house now, the Chiron in the 7th house. So we're looking at what happens if you're born with Chiron natally in the 7th house. And also what happens when Chiron is transiting through your 7th house. So all those 7th house issues that could cause you pain, but also cause you a great amount of learning. So the 7th house, what's it about? I like to think about it from the opposite of the 1st house. The 1st house and the 7th house are opposite each other on the birth chart. And they're very, very important points. Two of the most critical points, you could argue. So the cusp, the start of the 1st house is known as the ascendant, and it almost shows the start of the book of your life. And the opposing side is the descendant, which marks the start to the 7th house, the cusp of the 7th house. And so the ascendant shows the start of your life and everything about you. And the descendant, which is completely opposite, shows everything about everyone else. So everything that is not you is captured in the 7th house. So what might be important to you that's not you? Well, your lovers, your family members, your friends, all the kinds of people that you attract into your life and enjoy interacting with. It also shows up your enemies and all the people that you attract into your life because of your thoughts and your thinking patterns. So it represents everyone that is not you, that you have a particular resonance with. Now, the 7th house, if you had maybe Venus or Jupiter in the 7th house, the resonance for your 7th house projections, like the projections that you put onto people around you and your expectations of people around you, are quite harmonious. I know, in fact, a family member has Jupiter and Venus in the 7th house and has always just had like really harmonious expectations for relationships and has had lifelong friends from school, has lived in the same town for years and years and years and years and is extremely happy there, is well known and well loved, and has a really long marriage and is very, very happy and has a harmonious, this person makes it their mission in life to create harmony with people around them, and they are able to assert themselves and be heard, and people don't seem to take it personally. So there's a really great little sort of projection there. The planet that is in your 7th house really seems to represent what your expectations and experiences might be. That's not to say if you haven't got a planet in your 7th house that nothing's going to happen. You would look at the sign that your 7th house is in. Now, when you've got Chiron, the wounded healer, in the 7th house, your experience might be that people that are not you, i.e. everyone else, brings you a lot of pain and a lot of learning and a lot of experience. And it might be that the people in the 7th house represent people with vulnerabilities and weaknesses, people that need looking after. So I've seen this makeup in the charts of women who, of several women, I'm going to say, who have had quite useless partners over the years and have had multiple marriages. It's not to say that you can't have a lifelong marriage with Chiron in the 7th house. It's not to say that at all. I just make that really clear. But I have noticed several women who have had really quite useless partners that aren't helpful, partners that need a lot of maintenance, that need a lot of looking after, need a lot of hand holding, people that with serious confidence issues or illness. And so the 7th house Chiron really comes up in the charts of people who are very capable, who are very confident in working out their own life, and who just seem to be almost like permanent carers for other people. And so they're very deeply compassionate, and they learn a lot of life lessons from the people that they interact with. And some of those lessons can be quite painful, because not everyone wants to be helped. And sometimes you just end up giving too much of yourself away and not having enough time for yourself. So people with Chiron in the 7th house can be very, very selfless. And some of their wounds will come about because, they attract so many wounded people into their life. And often wounded people can get quite resentful of healthy people and start to erode their confidence. So I've also seen it implicated in people who have had a series of semi-abusive partners, partners that just knock the confidence and emotionally put these people in a stranglehold. So it's something to watch out for. It's definitely not saying this is what's going to happen, but it's saying watch out that you don't attract too many hopeless people that need so much input, because you'll never find that sense of equality in your relationships until you can understand that you don't have to rescue everybody, and that in actual fact it's important to rescue yourself so that you see everyone else as being totally healthy and capable, and then start attracting fabulous people into your life. Because Chiron, at its lowest expression, represents the wounding and represents the pain and represents that feeling that you can't quite get over what life has given you. But Chiron, when it's transcended, represents the teacher, the guru, the wisdom, the healer, the creative. So imagine if you've got a 7th house Chiron, and up until now you've been attracting high maintenance people that have knocked your confidence because they've been a bit resentful of the fact that life just seems so easy for you. So imagine that's been your experience. You might just think that's your lot and that's what relationships are like. However, as you start seeing that everyone is actually very capable and everyone is well and everyone has the potential to pull themselves through, you're likely to attract a guru, a saintly, self-realized person into your life. So I have also seen this come up in the charts of people who have experienced some rubbish relationships, but then found themselves in such a mutually supportive relationship that their own sense of growth has increased, and it's become a really great thing to have that level of healing and honesty and vulnerability and trust that all is well. So this is by no means a terrible thing to occur, having a 7th house Chiron. It just means you have a real sort of like tendency to pick up waifs and strays. And if it's not humans, it'll be animals, or it might be the environment. There'll be lots of things that you care for and put so much of your time in for other things that you leave yourself behind. So it's really, really important that in the 7th house Chiron that you address yourself too. Even though you're capable, even though you can cope, even though you can put up with most things, it's still really important to care for yourself. And when you do, you'll find that the environments and the people and the animals around you are healthy. So the 7th house represents relationships. And I guess you really want the kind of relationship that is going to support and nurture you. And it might be for a long time that you need a relationship where you feel needed, and where you feel important. And so there's another reason there why you might be attracting people who need your help so much. So that's part of the 7th house Chiron shadow side to investigate in yourself. Anyway, hopefully that's a few pointers about your own 7th house Chiron. Now, if Chiron is about to go into your 7th house, this is another one of those power positions that could mark a very significant change in your life. Because the 7th house cusp is, like I said at the start of this is one of the most poignant and big wake-up calls you're going to get in your life, and is likely to shake up your life so significantly that it'll never really look the same again. If you're aware that you've got a 7th house Chiron transit occurring, then the time is right to start preparing for it. So if you can see it coming and it's still a year or two off, you want to think about relationships and other people in your life and whether you have the right balance of need and having your needs met. Like, so, you know, you need to work out if you're giving too much of yourself, and whether you're getting your needs met. So it's about finding the balance between me and you. And it's also important to think about what your love aims are, because the 7th house is about other people and about the significant partnership that you might pull into your world. If you're single, then I would just work through any fears, because obviously Chiron represents our insecurities. So any fears to letting go of the insecurities that might be stopping a relationship from developing. So it's a time to ready yourself for the healing journey of partnerships, because that is what you're going to be going on as Chiron goes into the 7th house. I have seen it show up in the charts of people who had recently gone through some trauma with their partners and let go of partners that weren't very helpful to their own spiritual evolution, and partners that were so dragging and negative that they were actually making the client really poorly. And as with Chiron, as it moves over a point, Chiron moves forward and backwards a few degrees each year. So it takes, on average, between a year to 2 years for Chiron to fully clear a point and start moving beyond it. So leading up to the point of Chiron crossing your 7th house, you've probably got this time of shakiness where if you're in a relationship, you'll be analysing whether it's dragging you down or bringing you up, whether it's worth keeping or not. And it might be that your partner at this time has a lot more needs, that your partner might become depressed, or that they might lose a job and be relying on you. So it might, in this lead up, feel like you're a superhero needing to care for people. And you've got the choice of, you know, is this a relationship that I am going to stay in or not? And so you've got like that 1 to 2 year wobble time to work out how to leave a situation if it's not right for you, and how to stay in it and make it stronger and support it if it is right. And then as Chiron passes over the 7th house cusp, the descendant, then the opportunities for you finding yourself in a situation with people that can support and nurture you become so much more probable and so much stronger. And it can mark the time of a significant relationship coming into effect, where you feel nurtured and where you can actually heal yourself of your own wounds. It's a healing relationship. It's like a spiritual relationship. Now, not everyone in their lifetime in their prime relationship time will have Chiron go over the 7th house. You know, a lot of it depends on where Chiron is when you're born. So for some people, that the Chiron in the 7th house might not happen until they're in their old age. And by old age, I'm talking like 70 plus. And I'm not saying that to make 70-year-olds feel depressed or anything like that, because I'm not saying old age like it's the final bit, but it's the last. It's one of the steps where you're into like the third dimension of thinking, okay, well, I've been through a really active phase. I'm now entering a time when I'm thinking more about me. So you might not have Chiron going into that house until you're in your 70s or 80s. And when that happens, relationships and healing could take on a completely different light. It could be the illness of a partner, or you might be ill, and so that you have those issues to deal with, and from that find yourself in a more sacred relationship. It might be that you experience Chiron in the 7th house in your childhood, where you're surrounded by hurt people. It might be that your parents went through something really traumatic early in your childhood where they were going through pain, and so you learnt that relationships are painful. It might happen, when you're in your 30s or 40s. And again, that often shows that you've been in the wrong relationship, but you're about to correct it and find yourself in a deeply healing relationship. Or it might be that the relationship that you're in changes significantly and becomes better. But with all of these changes, there's learning involved in it, and some pain along the way. But the real message of the 7th house Chiron transit is that we can find resolution and resurrection from our 7th house relationships, that they needn't be about pain, but it's really, really vital that the lessons of caring for others versus caring for yourself, the self-care, that there is a good balance there, so that resentments and vulnerability don't build up, and that things stay useful for both partners. So there's a lot to think about, and a lot of shifts that go on during this time. Now, people with a strong 7th Chiron could also be involved in charity work and caring for others, and projects involved in caring for others. So if none of this rings true for you on a relationship sense, it might be that you're entering into a phase where you are working so much more for other people and doing lots of projects. So I'm hopeful that this is a useful prompt if you're going through this, or indeed have a 7th house Chiron. I think it's actually quite a lucky place for it to go through or to be in, because what exists for you is the opportunity to work through love in a way to find a really great partner, like one that is like a guru or like a soulmate. So I see this in the charts of soulmates. So bear that in mind, and try to stay positive, because it's obviously quite frightening thinking that your 7th house might be affected. Anyway, as ever, if there's anything you want to talk about in person, then just give me a buzz. But for now, take care, and hopefully this was inspiring to you.
You've been listening to Feel Good Astrology with Louisa Tanner Munson, and this recording has been made possible by all you lovely supporters at Patreon. To request a personal reading with Louisa, go to www.feelgoodastrology.com.